Let's talk aliens. You mentioned before that you do not see how there could be life like we know it, RNA, on other planets. Why is that? Explain that.
Well, so the further you go from, so if we have a, so it's all about contingency, the number of chance events had to happen. I think if you find another Earth or Earth-like planet, so let's say we've got an Earth detector, we find a planet that's roughly the same zone, roughly the same temperature, roughly the same chemistry, and we are able to see that it's alive, let's say remotely, then I I would bet there would be chemistry in life roughly like us, but would it be identical? It can't be, right? Because it's like saying you and I, let's say you and I are going to start to write a book. We decide we're going to use the same paper, periodic table, the same way of writing bonds, right? It's like chemi, and we'll use some of the same stuff like book length, 300 pages, gravity, and we both have our separate ways, go away for 4 billion years and just type our book, and we'll come back, and the books will be similar in that we would rewrote them using the same chemistry or kind of the same chemical seed availability, but there'll be different words. And so for people to think they were going to be the same, if our books were identical, like word for word, you'd be say that's simply impossible. And so, and that's what I'm saying is so that I would say that if you see what I mean.
Yeah. So here's how I follow you. Yes, the chemicals that make up RNA are the same in the universe. I mean, the laws of physics are the same. So that's the same. But at what point does it diverge? And what you're saying is RNA is the words. And so that's what's different.
Yeah, so I would say that there's probably RNA-like molecules on this other planet, right? It might be even incredibly similar. They might have some overlaps,
But it wouldn't
but they
be
can't.
R and A. It's just going to be other bases.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it will be different bases, different peptides. There's nothing magic about the molecules we use other than they work and they were selected in the past and they were selected for a reason in our geology on Earth.
Right.
Is there some kind of attractor in chemical space that takes us to DNA and RNA and proteins? I've not seen any convincing information statistically that suggests that that's a feature. And if there is, I need to know where that attractor comes from. It can't be magic. There must be information associated with that attractor.
That would be an interesting paper. I look forward to that one. Now, you've also said advanced alien mathematics. Let's say we find the aliens. Advanced alien mathematics is going to be different from advanced human mathematics. I guess this is the same principle, just taken further to culture, alien culture. Now,
Mhm.
it makes sense that alien culture is going to be completely different from human culture. But I don't understand why alien mathematics. This is the one thing that should be the same. And in fact, there was
Right.
a philosopher in the 60s, Gadamer, who said there are two kinds of human knowledge. One kind of knowledge is very unique to us. It's our experience knowledge. But there's
Mhm.
the other kind of knowledge, and he even used the example, if we met Martians, they would be able to understand this other kind of knowledge, and mathematics was one of his examples. So you are disagreeing specifically with that.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why?
It's again about the contingency. We might actually be able to talk to aliens in physics, blow bubbles, because bubbles will probably exist everywhere, and maybe fusion. But the problem is that the reason why philosophers can think in this way is they think about the Platonic ideal. So if I say to you, imagine a triangle, an equilateral triangle or a pentagon, hexagon. In your head, I know there's a hexagon, it's perfect. In my head, there's a hexagon, perfect. But the only reason we can share those ideas is we actually share a common causal history and culture. Who's to say aliens weren't counting in a different way? Who's to say they needed to count? Where did the concept of zero come from? It took us a few thousand years to get to zero. Why are we using the number system we're using? Now, it could be that there are some regularities, and what we'll be able to do is to say, oh, those regularities at the beginning overlap, and we're able to build a translation system to them and go all the way up. But the argument I use is much more careful than that to say, okay, let's imagine. So people say that mathematics was discovered and not invented. So I say, okay, let's take that. Let's take the jumbo jet. Was a jumbo jet discovered or invented? Most people would say maths discovered, jumbo jet invented. I'll say, okay, Let's now take a digital twin of the jumbo jet and describe it just mathematically using all the equations we need to design the jumbo jet, and say discovered or invented. And what they actually say is, well, oh, actually, there's contingency in the mathematics in the jumbo jet. So you break that down, break that down, break that down, and guess what? Use assembly theory and go all the way back and say, what is the common point? So there will be overlaps between alien mathematics and human mathematics, potentially. But I'm not sure I know enough about the universe and how we created our reality and our conception of mathematics, because it's really difficult. You can't unforget the concept of zero. You can't unforget the concept of binary. And so all I'm cautioning against is to say, do integers really exist? I think so, but it's really hard for me to prove. And so it really is an excuse for me to go find an alien and say, hey, how do you think? Let's do some math together. And so, and I just want to keep an open mind and say, how does that extend our knowledge or extend our investigative approach if we just say, hey, probably the only way we're going to discover aliens is look for weird architectures that we can find with high copy numbers that we can't explain using any other phenomena, and go talk to them. Because right now we're looking for pi, we're looking for whatever magic number or whatever sequence, and I don't think hunting for aliens they're going to be magically doing that. They're going to be doing something else.
I would think that your assumptions about assembly theory and selection being built into the universe would make you think that any alien anywhere in the universe would come to certain common ideas about mathematics. Or other topics too.
I agree. Right down at the bottom of the tree, as long as the number of chance events that need to happen or undirected events are low, the chances of overlap will be high. And I think that that's a really important discussion. And I like to provoke myself by making kind of contrarian thought experiments, right? To say, okay, let's assume there is no overlap in alien mathematics. What does that tell us? And then exactly, you go all the way back and say, well, come on, there must be some overlap. We share a universe. We share a periodic table. We share the quantum description of reality, probably. So what does that give us? Inevitably. But I just don't know. It's just because it feels fundamental to me, it's not necessarily fundamental to the alien.
And is there a relationship between time and needing less contingent events?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. So basically, it goes against a lot of physics, because physics is supposed to be a timeless thing that you can basically imagine the universe. Time is a thing you use to travel through the universe. But I think time is a creative thing that actually creates objects.
Yes.
And I think so, it might be that life on Earth is a hyperobject that exists in time, and alien life on a different Earth would be another hyperobject. And if they don't share any past, except right back to the Big Bang, it's going to be really hard for us to overlap in any meaningful way and communicate.
But this doesn't help us with the Fermi paradox. That's still there. But this has helped you sort of deal with it. Do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. The Fermi paradox, I think, again, assumes that we understand too much about what we're looking for aliens. Until we know what life is, we don't understand life. I've already said earlier, I don't think we necessarily die, right, as egos, right? We don't know what life is, and we don't really know how to measure it yet. So I'm not really sure we know what the Fermi paradox seems to be slightly ahead of the game. We are trying to explain why we haven't found aliens yet. Well, the universe is quite big. Could it be that all the aliens are dead? I don't think so. I don't think the rate of death of civilizations is actually a given. I think that if anything I can see on Earth, I think that complexity finds a way to propagate, right? Now, that's a pretty outrageous statement, because I'm confined to one planet. So I think the JWST might help us see a lot more than we ever bargained for.